The Cataphragnes, Lord Wizards and Master Inventors of Shadespire, were the first to discover that souls of the deceased could be captured within shade glass. They swiftly put this knowledge to work, creating a network of soul mirrors around the city to store their living essence in the event of their own deaths. In this way, they could continue to provide their expertise to the next generation of thinkers, and this advantage allowed the city to grow greatly over a relatively short length of time, from a humble desert outpost to a sprawling metropolis filled with innovative wonders. Over the centuries, the Cataphragnes began to further unlock the secrets of the shade glass, even inventing artifacts that would allow the living to enter the Fenway Mirror, the gleaming nexus that linked every fragment of shade glass in the city, and interact with their ancestors. Further remarkable inventions followed. The city's outer walls were suffused with the spirits of elite warriors who had fallen in battle, an eternal watch against the manifold threats of the surrounding desert of bones. Treasures were produced that were magically linked to the Fenway, so that a grieving relative might converse with their lost loved one via an enchanted amulet or brooch. Shade glass golems were created, given motion by the soul essence of their loyal retainers who continued to serve their masters, even in death. When the city was swept into shadow by the magic of Nagash, many of these objects of power were destroyed, or warped by the power of the Lord of Undeath's magic. The Fenway itself was shattered into 1,000 fragments, each shard scattered about the mirrored city, with the nexus of the soul relay. Broken, no soul could leave the nightmarish prison that held them captive. For thousands of years, the Cataphragnes sought to undo the curse of Shadespire. They hypothesized that recovering artifacts of pure shade glass and utilizing them to restore the great Fenway Mirror might break Nagash's spell, but trapped as they were within their soul-storing prisons, they could not carry out this task themselves. At first, they attempted to utilize the subjects, the citizens of Shadespire, but madness and paranoia swiftly overcame these unfortunate souls. It seemed as though the city itself was warping and shifting with every passing hour, hiding its secrets away behind illusionary walls and impossibly dimensioned chambers. No sooner was a precious shade-glass treasure recovered than another was lost, as the city's streets shattered and reformed, or a great stairway shifted, sending doomed souls tumbling away into darkness. Minds destroyed by this maddening existence, souls trapped within their decaying bodies, the people of Shadespire shuffled and groaned in the dark corners of their city. They cursed the torture of their undeath eternal, as both their hope and flesh slowly withered and rotted away. Worse still, regions of the city were slowly morphing under the will of Nagash. The image of the great necromancer would appear half-glimpsed in a reflection, or slowly form in the architecture of a great tower, his pitiless gaze further tormenting those who had defied his will. Many were driven to terrified insanity, blinding themselves with shards of glass so they would not look upon his dread visage. Others turned to worshipping Nagash and claimed great sections of Shadespire as their own, guarding their territory with a ruthless zeal. Believing that only by petitioning the god of death for forgiveness that they could be absolved of their prideful sins, they raised monuments and shrines in his honor. They claimed all shade-glass relics as property of Nagash, and sequestered those they recovered within great sepulchres of bone and wasting flesh, built from the still conscious bodies of heathens and intruders. For many centuries, the shadow-cloaked ruins of Shadespire lay dormant, a malevolent scar in the center of the vast desert of bones. During much of that time, there were few fresh victims of the city's terrible curse. Travelers seldom ventured across the deadly parching wastes to reach the city, as often warded away by the lethal storms that racked its bone-dust dunes, as by the dark stories that sprung up around the place. Yet some were brave or foolish enough to stray within the borders of the cursed city, and those fortunate few who returned brought back priceless treasures and forbidden knowledge, as well as rumors of haunted mirrors, nightmarish illusions, and other strange tales. Greed-filled eyes were soon drawn to Shadespire, for the realms are filled with desperate souls who would gladly risk damnation in search of power. Worshippers of foul gods and bands of savage war-loving orcs fought bloody skirmishes at the city gates, and rat-like skavens skittered through the shadows, scrabbling for relics and treasures to take back to their filth-strewn lairs. The ruins of Shadespire became a subject of particular interest to the god king Mtmr, whose elite champions, the Stormcast Eternals, were deployed in a great crusade against the forces of the Chaos Gods, the primordial entities who sought to despoil the mortal realms. His champions had suffered greatly through the long war, and though each was effectively immortal, the mysterious process of reforging that the fallen went through upon death had taken a worrying toll. Every time a warrior was remade, they lost a part of themselves, gradually shedding the vestiges of their humanity, becoming emotionless and uncompromising. The changes wrought by the reforging process manifested themselves in a myriad of unsettling ways, and those storm hosts who had seen constant battle were particularly afflicted. Long had the God King known of the rumours surrounding lost Shadespire, where once the souls of the dead had been preserved in time. If Shadeglass could perform such miracles, might not it also be of use in his quest to salve the trauma that ran rife through his armies? Seeking to learn more regarding the properties of this mysterious substance and the truth of the lost city, the God King sent forth his agents into the cursed city. The warriors and scholars could not imagine the nightmare they would find. Over the long centuries, many of the cataphragms had followed their citizens into despair, driven mad by the futility of their task. Those former masters of the city who retained some semblance of sanity had taken to employing the unfortunate adventurers and warriors who had been transported to the mirrored city, offering them the secrets of escaping Shadespire and ending the Lord of Death's curse. Many of those cataphragms are unconcerned by the nature or honour of those they ally with, requiring only that they help them escape their hellish existence. In recent seasons, as the realms are stricken by war and disaster once more, the number of unfortunates stumbling through shadowy portals into the mirrored city has increased tenfold. Some of those now trapped in Shadespire are noble souls, determined to end the curse and deny their fate. Others are savage brutes, for whom an endless cycle of violence is its own reward. There are looters, frenzied barbarians, and sages whose desire for knowledge has led them down dark paths. The disparate souls will clash together as each attempts to escape damnation, and the haunted streets of Shadespire will run red with blood.